Hey everyone, welcome to a Screenwriter's Take, Joker. Okay, first the non-spoiler discussion, which is a little tough. The pros and cons. Pro, Todd Phillips, man, talented, talented director. He brings it to another level here. You know, The Hangover's great, really one of the best comedies ever. And but he captures 70s New York. It's Gotham, but 70s New York feel in this movie incredibly. I mean, really looks good. Has that feeling of that 70s New York where just everything's falling apart and covered in graffiti. Every frame of this movie is full of filth and grime. It really felt like the 70s. Now, there were some little things that sort of betrayed when this movie was actually made. I'm not sure where they shot it, but definitely there was some epic shots of streets and cities that were pretty, I wonder what city this is. Or did they, do something in the CGI department to really sell it? But man, the political message, the underlying political message was a little more modern. There's a scene with a sign spinner that felt a little. I don't remember sign spinners back in the 70s. I think that's a more contemporary thing, and that's very early in the movie. And I immediately went, that's more contemporary, but totally forgivable. I mean, there could have been sign spinners. Maybe I just didn't see them. But the movie, what the movie, the downside of the movie, the cons, if you're a comic book fan, first off, do not bring your kids to see this movie. No. It is very dark, relentlessly so. And it should be because it's a Joker character. But, and I'll say this, a pro is that Todd really does his best to keep the Batman story consistent, within the framework of this Joker movie. Because there is some Batman touches in this. I don't want to give it away. But the thing is, it still suffers from what I said in my initial take, which is the Joker's not meant to be the main character. So, trying to make Joker the hero here, it's a very sad movie. To me, it's a very dark and depressing movie. He has to make the city and the people around him so mean and unpalatable in order to get sympathy for Joker, whose name in the movie is Arthur. So I really feel that if Todd had abandoned the comic book and done an original story with a character like Arthur / Joker, he could have done more with it. The baggage, the Batman baggage or the comic book baggage is, there's not enough of it there for comic fans, in my view. And I don't know if I want to see a Batman movie where he wails on Joaquin Phoenix's Joker. I really don't know if I want to see that. I don't know if it would be good. Because the movie itself is so psychological, so emotional, it has more to do with the city of Gotham than it does with Batman. And Joker's a big part of that, and the city's a big part of that. And that's the good of it, because, the city portion of it is so well done. That foundation, you could do almost any story in Todd Phillips's 70s Gotham. You really could. You do a lot of cool stories. But and, you know, and it feels like it's a real city. There's things happening. There's different departments and, you know, actors, quote unquote, not actors in the actual actor sense, but there's different, you know, pieces of the puzzle there. I always felt like in some of the other superhero movies, and especially in the comics, that doesn't even exist. You know, there was a time, you know, I always talk about the Fantastic Four, how like when Kirby would do it, you know, once in a while a New York City policeman would just help the Fantastic Four because he happened to be on the street, or, you know, randos on the street would help the Fantastic Four. And that never happens in the comic anymore because it doesn't even feel like New York. It's just, you know, a shadow of a shadow of a shadow of a shadow of its former self. So really, comic book fans, there's not much here for you. Just to warn you in advance, this is not a comic book movie at all, in my view. You know, you could, I assume, segue into, you know, a Joker movie. I don't know how much more really about the Joker character you would learn from a Batman Joker movie. That's the problem. And here's the overall arching problem with the Joker character itself. The Joker character was initially more of a gangster with a theme. And that's, you know, all the characters that Batman fought in the old days. They were like that. They were just thematic characters for the comic book because Batman was thematic and its criminals had to be thematic. And then fairly recently in the character's history, probably, I guess it was starting in the late 70s, is when Joker really started to kill people and then became a homicidal maniac. That wasn't the case early on, prior to that, really. Yeah, maybe he killed a few henchmen, but he killed them kind of like a gangster would. Like gangsters kill people, but they don't kill everybody. They don't kill, you know, they don't go out of their way to gas a room full of 30 people and give them the smile and kill them. So what happens in this movie is, man, and I got to hand it to Todd Phillips again for reading the comics and really knowing the character. Really, you can see, now if you took some of the comic books and did them as movies, they would totally make sense. Every move the Joker would make. Like, everything in this movie sets up what the Joker is in the comics, right? And but it makes him so broken and so evil. It's just kind of repugnant to watch. Joaquin Phoenix is just an amazing actor. And he is fully unleashed in this film. Every frame of him, just, you're uncomfortable and awkward and like, oh man, someone help this guy. His descent is pretty epic. Now, you know, a lot of people are calling this a masterpiece. I don't know if I'd go that far. But it's definitely a movie worth seeing if you're a moviephile. You know, it's not a movie to see if you want to see a happy movie. Well, let me say that up front. Culturally, you know, this whole thing, first off, no cops. There was barely an audience at the showing I went. I went at 5:15. No problems whatsoever. A few people applauded, which was odd. Got a little worried when that happened. I felt that was weird because it didn't feel like an ending that you should be applauding. But, you know, this whole idea that that Joker is the patron saint of incels, no, absolutely not. Incels are involuntary celibates. They can't get women, and then they have turned that around to say, well, we choose not to get women now. And since I can't get them, which is really them choosing not to have women, you know, we don't have women, and they've got, you know, this weird belief system. The Joker doesn't have that. He has many problems. He has desires. He wants to be accepted by society. Through most of the movie, he's struggling to be accepted. And that's not what incels done. do. Incels have given up. Incels are like, F you. This is really a character struggle with his own mental instability. And he's just so broken, and it's just so sad. I mean, he just goes low, emotionally low. So would I recommend this movie? I think you got to be in the right mindset to see this movie. You know, you're screenwriters. I think this is an important movie in terms of the culture and the culture war. I think this is just as important, if not more so, as Dave Chappelle's special. So for that, I think, and I think it's a good movie. I think it should be supported. I think, you know, the Twitter takedown of Joker, assuming it's not a construct of the marketing department in the studio, is completely unfair. And you know, this is a fine movie. It shows very skilled movie making, acting, script. I mean, there's not an ounce of fat in that movie. Nah. Good screenplay. Really good screenplay. The only baggage, or fat, I would say, is all the comic book stuff, which if you turned into something else, could have been even better, in my view. And this has come from a comic book guy who loves Batman and the Joker. I just really feel it would have been stronger had it been applied to original characters and not, you know, not this world in which, yet again, we have a new take on. I think, you know, they're kind of beating a dead horse. I think that hurts the movie. But, you know, in the world of comics is almost nothing. So ultimately, it's not going to really hurt the movie all that much. But I think Todd would have been, you know, at an even higher level had they just started with an original character like this guy and his descent. Robert De Niro is weird in this movie. He kind of slips into gangster mode at one point, which I thought was odd. I really wanted to see him do something different, and I thought he was initially. You know, he did King of Comedy. I thought he would go more for a character like that. So I got to say, Joaquin Phoenix steamrolled him in the acting department, which was shocking to watch. But again, he's more of a supporting character in this role, so maybe he just took a step back and said, well, you know, I'm just gonna stay back over here and let Joaquin do his thing. But you know, the idea that this is an incel movie or you got to be worried about people getting shot, anything like that, nothing like that happened at the movie. I didn't expect anything like that. I walked in, got my ticket, perfectly fine. It's just a relentlessly dark movie that, you know, I don't think incels would want to see this movie, quite frankly. It's depressing. I think the kind of people who see this movie are film buffs like me, like probably a lot of you, screenwriters, comic book aficionados of certainly will go see it for another take on Joker and Batman. You know, and people who kind of like dark movies. In a lot of ways, it's a horror movie, you know, because it's such a horror to see Arthur's life kind of just spiral down, you know. And I don't know if I really felt all that much for Arthur. I did for a few frames, and then something happens in the movie that kind of undermines that a bit. Although I feel it was a good thing to do for the Joker's, again, I'm trying not to give anything away, the Joker's insanity, which I'll talk about it in the spoiler review next. So, yeah, I mean, this is a movie I think people should support, especially if you hate the Twitterati who came down on this. I will also say smash like and subscribe. Check out the links to Wokistan, a novel, the Pineys, the Webcomic Factory, and Superfrat. And next up, the spoiler, where we break down the screenplay itself. I'm going to talk about stuff. So the next one is going to be big time spoiler.